Well, hey, good morning, everybody. My name is Jared. This is Justice's Waiting Room, a daily live podcast where we discuss news and politics. Let's see what it do. Oh, by the way, got that's right, my Tesla shirt on this morning. It's fucking awesome. By the way, shout out Dina for being approximately half of my wardrobe. Keep it, keep it coming. Let's keep making shirts. I hope that it pushes you to build a business, and I'll help you any way I can for free. For those of you that don't know, um, I'm a socialist, and I never realized when it hit me that I'm a socialist. But here's a really good example of when I realized like learning a skill set and using it for capitalist gains can destroy your desire to do that. Of a lot of people along the way are gonna wonder. A lot of people along the way are gonna wonder, how come you didn't like go work for like corporate American shit? Um, that's because rich people will do anything to stay in wealth and power, up to and including false advertising, committing wire fraud, that kind of shit. So brings me a great deal of pride. Hey, Carlin, Kara, Dubs, happy Saturday. It's a great day to protest, boycott, and strike. You can imagine how I feel given this scenario where the President of the United States welcomed our enemy, our greatest enemy, onto American soil. And then he got dog walked by him, actually. Which, again, everybody knows Donald Trump's stupid, right? I mean, the facts are the guy reads at a fourth grade reading level. What did you think? Former KGB versus basically a guy who probably cheated his way through college. Let's be real about some shit. From what I have come to understand about Donald Trump, not the brightest crown in the sky. Is that fair? Okay. First things first. The president of the United States thinking that they can negotiate peace up to and including this, like the cessation of land for another country, is some fucking ego I could not fathom. That's some fucking ego. Okay? That's some fucking ego I did never thought I'd see. Trump says Putin agrees with him about mail in voting. I just want to make sure that you understand that the Republican Party slash the right slash fascist slash authoritarian attempt to force you into a situation where you got to choose between voting and dying, right? Because remember, at the 2024 U.S. election, there were hundreds of bomb threats on election day, and that's what came out of this meeting. Is the president of the United States invited our greatest enemy onto our soil and agreed with him about the elimination of mail-in voting. Why? Because it's overwhelmingly Democrat. Hmm? And it also makes it hard to cheat at elections when you don't have your computer to alter ballots, which again is what happened in this election, and I'm confident that that information is going to come out one day, and we will be vindicated. Vilified is that I can't remember which one it is because we do so much of that, where it's just like, hey, we're not batshit crazy, and as a result of not being batshit crazy, we're able to kind of take in what's going on around us and it not totally wreck us every single day. And every now and then we have our little crash outs. But the hard reality is that the President of the United States gave Russians a close up look at top secret U.S. military. And so this is what I'm interested in is what did the president violate in terms of the UCMJ? A lot of people are gonna. Is it vindicated? Okay. I want to point out that the President of the United States, Donald J. Trump, made his own military get on their hands and knees to lay down a red carpet for Vladimir Putin, and it didn't even go all the way up the stairs into the jet. And then what I learned late last night that I went to bed knowing is that the Trump administration is drawing up plans to invade Mexico. This is after the U.S. declares a bunch of uh, drug cartels as terrorist organizations. Viva la Mexico. They're not gonna put up with no bullshit. And again, man, again, as I've said before, people are afraid of Donald Trump, and partially rightfully so, right? But he really is weak. Weak. You know, I did the thing about it is I couldn't respect the man any less, and he let me down. Do you understand? Like I have long since shut that man off, and and I don't regularly take in Donald Trump. It's like I can smell the piss and shit from here. Okay. Um, so I try to take him as little as possible, and just focus on the people doing good stuff. Okay. Barack Obama, um, the people that are kind of standing up to him, they're showing you that he bullies you bully bullies. When I was in high school, our bully finally got his way. He got to bed one of the pretty girls, right? And she went to my church and she was my friend. And he was bragging about it, and he had been bragging about it. And I remember consoling her and being like, yeah, he's a piece of shit. Like, what a dick, being a nice kid. And her being like, as big a man he has a tiny penis. And I don't have to live with that. He does. And I was just like, so, she rolled her eyes at him. Bully the bullies. Yeah, remember vote blue no matter who? Remember all the Democrats not coming out to support Zoran Mamdani? And this is Fox News saying Donald Trump got steamrolled, by the way. Hey, I'm having a good Saturday morning. I was telling my wife this morning, here's the way this goes. I'm a gamer. So, the way the world's going, play a game and then switch and play a game, switch and play a game. And so, I came up, for the last like 20 years, I play Call of Duty. Mostly. I probably have 20,000 hours on Call of Duty. I never really liked the Battlefield series because there was too much to do. So you had to master a range of things, and I tend to get overburdened with task, and the military could be that way. And so Call of Duty made more sense for me, and I'm just a dumb grunt, so don't take it anything. Okay. Yeah, me neither. I don't. I was at work. Um, Call of Duty was good when the Warzone came out. It was pretty good, but they've hit or miss with some of their games, and I'm not here to glaze them. So, what ended up happening is I found the Division 2 in terms of like a higher quality shooter. It was recommended to me by a fellow Marine that was also in 2 too. Um, Once you play through Division 2 and you get far enough into it and you kind of like square away Washington D.C., you the expansions are New York City and Brooklyn. For the record, the Division 2 has given me exactly what I wanted in a video game. Was a video game set in the real world. Not like today, but like in a city, in multiple cities actually. I would love to have like downtown Indianapolis, as part of a video game. That'd just be cool just to walk around, right? Um, but then, so in the Division 2, it's just a straight up and down post-apocalyptic third-person shooter, story driven. It's good. I I like it. It's like socialism, the video game, because you're actually doing in the video game in Division 2 what you're supposed to do in the face of fascism. Create community, champion things like education, safety, safety in numbers, sharing, learning how to like grow your own food, produce your own food, right? Security. hmm And then once you get far enough into Division 2 that you've got like a lot of time in that game, hundreds of hours into that game, and then I look for, well, what happens if the community aspects fails and it's just you, and that's Days Gone. So for the record, if you wondered what it do after post society, there's the Division 2 and Days Gone. Okay, and then because I have PTSD and mental health is a thing for me, one of the things that I noticed that it stuck out to me in Days Gone, your character's having mental health issues, and they range from hallucination. He doesn't generally sleep unless he absolutely fucking has to. Um, he's having conversations with dead people. Um, we're driving to places on the map that he's hallucinating conversations with his girl who's dead. And for my money, it's exactly post society alone. It's exactly post society alone. And then I think that once human, which is again what I started playing again today. I just started a new. Oh, it feels so good to go back in the game and you have nothing. It's like, oh, yeah. Because in once human, it's like one thing. Once things have, it's like your mind plays tricks on you. But what if your mind was right? Like, and again, because of the mental health aspect of the sort of like pattern. Um, like I'll always appreciate that Days Gone and Once Human, what they do is they give you Molotovs and they put the bad guys in groups. And I think it's particularly timely. Anyway, we're just blending. I want to be careful about lauding Tom Cruise. I know a lot of people are want to praise Tom Cruise for turning down the Kennedy Center honors. And I just want to point out that just because Tom Cruise isn't MAGA doesn't mean he's not the face of Scientology and that that isn't a competing cult. And we're talking about cults here. And we're careful not to champion the head of Scientology. Here's a Democrat from San Francisco authors legislation to shut this ski mask shit down after mask agents crashed Newsom's speech. Border Patrol. Masked Border Patrol agents showed up outside of an elected official's office like they were going to do something. All kidded. Oh, and by the way, I don't know if we talked about this the other day. Do you remember the video of the hero in Washington D.C., the guy that threw the sandwich? So here's the video, and here's the story from how I understand it. The guy that throws the sandwich is a federal agent or federal employee. He got fired. Also, he called and offered to give himself up, and they sent SWAT after him for throwing a sandwich. They're gonna run out of money. They won't be able to pay these people. Are you working without pay? Number two House Democrat Catherine Clark calls the Gaza war genocide. First, that's the second most powerful Democrat. Donald Trump's about to spend millions of dollars propping up Kristi Noem. So get ready to see Leatherface. Wait, is that her? Is Kristi Noem Leatherface or is Laura Loomer Leatherface? Or is that just like a Trumpian thing? That's all I'm saying, Dubs. Oh my god, SWAT for a fucking sandwich? Yeah. I'm telling you, I never thought I would say this out loud. The fucking Second Amendment exists for a reason. If the options are get beat the fuck up and probably get bones broken at a minimum and go sit on a fucking cargo plane and get flown to a foreign country you ain't from and tossed in some fucking rotting ass jail. Uh, they don't have warrants. They don't have bullets in their guns. Deb said it's a Trumpian thing. Leatherface is what you get. I heard KKK Caroline's having a hard time. Like, it's she's starting to realize that her husband's gonna die. 50 years before she, intends to go anywhere. Pam Bondi has returned control to the DC police chief. So a bunch of police officers are now gonna lose their jobs because they're idiots. Hell yeah, evil rots from within. Fuck yeah. The thing about how Democrats feel about Gavin Newsom is, first of all, I don't know who the fuck they're polling. Okay, so I don't know a sane human being, like someone that isn't batshit crazy, that isn't like, yo, Gavin Newsom is trolling the president and it's fucking working. He's stunned in silence. He can't do anything. Look what he would look, just so weak. So weak. Shaking hands with Vladimir Putin. Sitting down with Vladimir Putin, getting absolutely thrashed by Vladimir Putin. That's a former KGB agent. The fuck you talking about? Donald Trump's a troll himself. So, California Democrats. Here's a CNN article. California Democrats have introduced a map to redistrict. We got to talk about where's the stuff about Arnold Schwarzenegger wants to end gerrymandering. And so what I notice, it wasn't until the Democrats decided, hey, right, maybe we should, yeah, maybe we should not gerrymander. He didn't do that until the Democrats started playing that game. Just want to point that out. Then it became something we shouldn't do. I didn't know that Hunter Biden and Melania are potentially going to go to court. Shout out to all the women that voted for Donald Trump as Donald Trump moves to destroy women's right to vote. I just want Donald Trump is normalizing the president of the United States being friendly with our enemies. That's that's what's troubling here. Is Yeah. But Bob's got the right attitude here. Let's get to Discovery. Um, I think we've talked about this before. There's an article in the New York Times about Russia having breached the federal court filing system. Republicans who backed Trump's anti-environment bill have accepted $105 million from big oil. Want to know? So here's an Israeli athlete giving an obscene gesture before a race and fucking losing. You can be a villain, at least get a milli up front. Yeah, you got to remember some of the people that were just the vessel for Russian propaganda got paid nothing. In the case of Joe Rogan, he didn't get paid anything to channel Russian disinformation. Um, he was making money anyway. Remember, if the Republicans don't have an enemy, they don't have a platform. If the Republicans aren't trying to, hey Daniel, if the Republicans aren't trying to start a conflict, they don't have a platform. Yeah, I think I think the entirety of Donald Trump's relationship with Vladimir Putin just pisses me off. But again, you got to understand, like Jeffrey Epstein might actually be worse, uh, and that's insane to say. But want to make sure that we say pretty early in the show, hey, just so we're all clear here, the President of the United States, his wives, his children, his best friend and his best friend's girl, ran an international sex trafficking ring for the better part of 20 years. And it wasn't a double-edged sword because that means it's like two good things. It's just two swords. And one of those things is yes, Donald Trump's a pedophile and the majority financier. So it's like his $1 billion that he gave to Jeffrey Epstein. So if anybody wondered how in the hell did this guy fail, is because he's a pedophile and he was paying Jeffrey Epstein obscene amounts of money. Uh huh. He was paying for action. Okay. But what he also was able to do is he was able to discover what world leaders and business leaders also want to fuck little kids. And he was able to put them in incriminating situations. And there's video and pictures of you would not believe all over the place, right? We just make sure we say that with our full chest that Donald Trump did this, one, because he's a pedophile, and two, because he was able to blackmail and extort basically anyone in his proximity, anybody dumb enough to come around him, right? Putina. Yeah. Mm-mm. And I watched a clip yesterday of it was a little segment on women's sports. And this is going to alienate my audience as much as talking about video games does. But the data would talked about, first of all, being a sports fan is DEI. And if you're anti sport, that's a dog whistle for racism, sexism. There's a myriad of things. When I think of the people that I've ever met in my life that I'm not a sports person, hmm, when did that happen? So it lets me know, right? Right? I can't believe you put my wife's nudies in the media in your country. Like, what the fuck? So, what was I talking about? Got me off topic. I forgot what I was talking about. Oh, sports. So I watched this little segment where they're basically talking about how half of all NFL fans are women, and how the percentage of women watching sports has gone up. And obviously, when we're talking about two objects and the sum is 100, and one of those sums is growing and its percentage share is increasing, somebody is losing a share. Well, millions of people, millions of men have stopped watching the NFL. The NFL is majority women fans. hmm You can thank fucking Taylor Swift for emboldening women to be sports fans. Great job, Tay. Now, here's the thing. Um, Women aren't big college football fans. It's a majority men. Um, but it doesn't translate to women's sports, is kind of what I'm getting at. The WNBA is like majority women fans. And so I made sure last night my TV was on the Fever game and that I was watching the Fever game. When I got off work last night, I went in and watched the Fever game, right? Because, like I said, being a sports fan is now DEI. And the people that are not watching sport, like live sport, uh, they're not doing that because they're wallowing in self-hatred instead. They're having a miserable fucking existence. And I say that because when you're not watching sports, you're forced to watch the President of the United States court our enemy on our soil and let him speak behind a podium with the presidential seal on it. So you can piss in one hand, shit in the other. I'd much prefer just to not align myself with bigots, right? Stacy said hockey and baseball. Interesting. I love all sports. Mhm. Primarily football and basketball. Mhm. But I'll watch it if it's on. Mhm. Yep, sports gives you something to look forward to, gives you somebody to cheer for. And ultimately, like I said, it's sports are DEI, right? They're diverse, you know, they're equitable, meaning like people are making a living doing it, and it's inclusive in that like the best player plays. Kind of doesn't matter where you're from, right? So one of the things I've learned as I've got older is about how you can tell who's a decent human being and who's fucking not. Albie said DraftKings. Yeah, I used to, and like I said, I used to be a sports writer for the Indianapolis Colts, and even wrote about fantasy football. DraftKings was a sponsor the first of the 3 years I wrote about fantasy. We did a weekly series where I bet like a five-way parlay, and the first week we won. I bet like $50 and won like $1,200. Yeah. So you never know what was exchanged when they were riding in the car together. The White House has created a secret list of biggest corporate enemies. So here's again the President of the United States creating kill lists. And by the way, I saw a video that I didn't share because I'm not really big on fear mongering because your healthcare is supposed to be good all year. I watched a video where a guy said on the 25th, so I think that's in 10 days. Sorry. 9 days. The 25th, people are going to lose their health care. I don't know about that. From what I know, your Medicaid award is annual. Your Medicare health plan you sign up for, it's good all year. It's supposed to be. That said, if you know someone that's on Medicare or Medicaid, you might want to start making some fucking phone calls. Again, I didn't share the video because I'm not big on if you don't have facts to back that up, that it's just hearsay. And I don't often even say about it. I wouldn't normally say something about it. But I did see a video where like apparently like a bunch of people about to lose healthcare coverage mid-year, but that doesn't pass logic to me. Mm-mm. Okay. So just know that problems that I thought we weren't going to have until January, we're going to have now. So now, fortunately, these people should be given an enrollment period and just be allowed to re-enroll in healthcare. It is yeah. But there's an article there that the CBO confirms Trump's budget law will trigger over 500 billion in automatic Medicare cuts. So the president of the United States is going to destroy Medicare and Medicaid and SNAP and give all that money to his billionaire friends. And a bunch of people are going to be poor, or that are even poorer. hmm Here's Slate. He said Fever game last night was a slugfest. Yep. Them girls came. Mystic came to play last night. They were hitting some desperation shit. That was it. Just what? Yo, hundreds may have been exposed to rabies at bat-infested cabins in Grand Teton National Park. What the fuck? Yeah. What it means is get all your health care taken care of now because the cost is gonna go up. I don't know if I told y'all this. So my buddy that was in the Marine Corps, because of this administration, he took all his money in savings, flew to Las Vegas, and got all his teeth ripped out and got fucking veneers put in. Because he was like, might as well do it now while we're in our 40s instead of try to do it later when it costs oodles more. Yeah. So, uh, man, it's gonna be rough. Again, part of, again, I feel bad for anybody that has family members that have Medicare and Medicaid and SNAP, um, because yeah, right. Jesus. Remember, part of what we're gonna talk about is the weather, right? And so I think you got to talk about international weather phenomena and how I don't know about y'all, fire and flood. Remember, it's majority going to be Trump voters who are impacted by Medicare and Medicaid cuts. So here's what I think. You know, the people that are made homeless by this administration and the people that attended Trump rallies, it's a circle. So the thing about it is he hates his followers so much that he is bent on destroying them. Yep. Yeah, did y'all hear at least 400 people died in Arizona in July because of the heat? It was 114 degrees or warmer like every day in July in Arizona, and like hundreds of people died in a month. And that information's not getting out because the president doesn't like bad news. What are you hiding, boys? I love it. I would love to see this on a t-shirt. Jackson, Tennessee, indivisible. Jesus Christ. So right after I was like, damn, that was a crazy flood. Yo, this flood in India and Pakistan, there's double the death toll. Gabby said he don't like bad news as he looked in the mirror. Exactly. Exactly. Israel kills journalists. Free Palestine. Hey, here's here's a couple articles. One from The Guardian about how this FBI returns a stolen document signed by conquistador Hernan Cortez to Mexico. Priceless artifact has been returned to Mexico by the FBI. It's interesting. And then I just saw the African Union has called for the end of the use of the Mercator map that shrinks Africa's size with relation to other continents. It's a racist thing. Yeah. All right. So SEPTA, okay, this is out of Philly, y'all. And there's a goddamn. They don't like my ad blocker. Honk, cause we hate Trump. Fucking yeah, the kids are gonna be all right. Once the problem is, if anybody wonders the pipeline from young teenager to right wing supporter pipeline, it's the kids that get jobs. The kids that are overexposed to uneducated people that work hourly wage front facing jobs everywhere you look, their leadership is 99% to not have a college degree. As someone who didn't have a college degree and worked since I was like 14, 15 years old, I literally had can think of three people that I ever had as a boss, and all of them are minorities. And that's the reason I had good bosses. Every other boss that I've had is a white cis male, and they have sucked ass at their fucking job. So if anybody wonders how do your fucking kids go from being awesome little shits, right, where their brain is fucking exploding constantly and finding new neural pathways, right? Uh, what happens is you send them out and they work with a bunch of fucking idiots, bunch of fucking idiots. And what ends up happening is they get exposed to people who, you get told that you're not, uh, like you always respect your elders, right? But I learned when I was in like fifth or sixth grade, my teacher was like, "Hey, Jared," and I was like, "Yeah," and they're like, "Have you ever tried to be wrong on purpose?" And I'm like, "No." Like, why would I intentionally do something wrong? That doesn't seem like a nice way to go about it. And they were like, "Well, sometimes you gotta let other people be wrong." And I was like, "What?" And they were like, "You have a problem letting other people just be wrong. You gotta let me teach." Right? If they're getting some shit wrong and hey man, do this, get this result, stop doing that stupid shit, right? That might work for you, but you gotta let me do my job. I'm like, okay. And they were just like, and you don't have to answer when I ask. And I'm like, yeah, I know. I try not to bother you. But every now and then you ask a question, nobody is prepared to answer that. And I'm just like, the fuck? Keep the conversation moving. And they were just like, you know what? Forget I said anything. Like, okay. But yeah, I learned a long fucking time ago. What happened was No Child Left Behind. I blame George Bush. The reality is, Some of y'all were meant to get held back. I know you don't want to hear that. Not not the people in my chat, like not chat. But they let everybody talk. They just my whole life they just shut me up. Stop talking. Stop offering an answer. Yes, you're right. You figured it out. Shut up. That's what I got told my whole life. And let all these fucking idiots talk. And I'd be sitting there like this. Oh my god. That's what you wrote? You got a half hour, 500 fucking words. You had the world at your fingertips, and that's what you came up with. Oh my god. And then the teacher's like, "What's wrong, Jared? Go ahead, Dingleberry. Finish your not a sentence." And that happened my whole fucking life. My whole life, the teacher, you know, uh, would come to me before the class. I don't want to hear you talk today. I really got to figure out what the rest of your classmates are thinking. I know what you're thinking. You're right. Cool. Okay. And you generally make it like halfway through a class before my classmates are looking at me like, why the fuck aren't you answering questions today? Just seeing if y'all got it. And that also happened at outside of school activities. hmm I'll never forget because of the church. I went to this like meetup, and they had a speaker, and he started out with a quote from Churchill, and he said he basically reads this quote, and in my brain I'm like Winston Churchill at the end of World War II or whatever, and he's like, and does anybody in here know what famous person said that? I just raised your hand. It was like Winston Churchill. And he was like, you ruined my entire presentation. And I was like, what? And he's like, I've been giving this speech all over the world. Nobody has ever heard that saying before. And I was like, oh, all right. So much for that shit. Yeah. And again, it's because people are fucking stupid. Like, just incredibly motherfucking dumb. And we allowed everyone, instead of just being like the guy who's normally correct should normally get to answer if they decide to, right? That's kind of how I think about it. Like I'll answer this question. Doesn't appear like anybody else will do that. Yeah, but because of the education system, how they were trying to include everyone and move everyone forward together, is I spent most of the time in the education system with my mouth taped shut. Like teachers told my parents, your son is the perfect student if he would just stop talking. hmm I know he's learning. I know that he knows what he's talking about. But I am baffled at what the fuck is going on with everybody around him. It's almost like he's sucking it all in and everyone else is just taking in the scraps. So we gotta make him be quiet and let all these other kids get a crack at it. And basically Jared spent the majority of his time in the education system watching other people embarrass themselves while I'm like, "Oh my shit." And then, the best part about this was I remember when I came home from the Marine Corps and I went, remember how I told you a story about how I went to this local bar where all my teachers were at, and I went in and like had a drink with them, played pool with them, and like fist bumped with people I went to high school with, and that's really the only fucking time I've ever partied with anybody from where I went to. And my teachers said that No Child Left Behind and you single-handedly kept us from being able to adequately like judge the rest of your graduating class effectively. Like if you just hadn't been there, kids would have got held back for sure. Uh huh. hmm Yeah, I had my high school football coach was like, "You're such an asset that you hold other people back." hmm And he was like, my high school football head coach, his name was Mark Bless. He just retired. One of the questions he asked me was like, "How was it in the Marine Corps?" And I was like, "Well, I was like a liaison to the platoon commander, so I kind of spoke for the platoon commander to the whole company." And he was like, "Uh huh." And he's like, "So they would have like a formation, right?" And I'm like, "Uh huh." And he's like, "And you would be out in front of the formation." I'm like, "Pre-formation." And I'd be just making sure they were squared away. Everybody knew what was going on. Tuck everything in, put everything in your pockets. Stop being douchebags. Let's get in formation for staff sergeant. And like, stop sucking dick, Malott. Like, no, I want to go home. Yeah. And if he's comes out here and he doesn't see anything fucked, we just gotta go home, right? Um, and I was talking to like guys that are like corporals and sergeants and shit. So when you're like the new guy and you're telling people to stop being fuck ups so we can go home, and they're going, yeah, yeah, I feel that. You completely broke like the chain of command broken, right? My platoon commander was a staff sergeant, and the guy giving word before formation is a fucking lance corporal. What the fuck? Usually that's like a gunny out there screaming at everybody, but I beat him to the punch because I learned because I have some life experience. If the person who has the most power and control is loud and they like scream and shit and draw attention, it makes the other people around them that are also leaders, it makes them behave in the same way. And so if I can get in there and quietly correct everyone so that everyone stay in the position of attention, doesn't have anything hanging out of their uniforms, or fucking cargo pockets aren't full of bullshit, right? You aren't holding shit in your hands and shit. Don't do that shit. So they can't harp and bitch. And it completely broke my fucking chain of command because they were like, this piece of shit. Like, he's getting out there ahead of a fucking officer and squaring everybody away before everybody gets out there and standing at the back of the formation like, ha ha ha. And then they're just letting everybody go. And then they'd be like, Malott, stay behind. Oh shit. And be like, what'd you tell him? I told him stop being an idiot so we can get the fuck out of here. I told them to square themselves the fuck away so we don't get. Who wants to get fucking yelled at before you go home for the day? Like, the fuck? And my fucking staff at CEO is like, oh man. You're anti-authority. You realize this, right? Like, you joined a system of authority and you're skirting that. And I'm like, oh fuck, am I really? And he's like, you know what? As long as it gets the kids out of here, right? And I'm like, fuck yeah, we got a softball game. I gotta go because I had a softball game. But yeah. And every job I've ever had, it's the same way. Like, my boss will have to come sit down and be like, why are you here? Like, we'll be in a group setting, and my boss will be like, I want to hear from everyone but Jared. And I stop sharing the numbers because I have a group on Slack that is people I've worked with at other companies. There's like 20 of us that work at this company now. Uh, and I used to post my numbers, but people were like, "You're shitting on everybody." And I was like, "No, I was just sharing my numbers." Okay, man, fuck off. But it is true. No child left behind, and your boy is why a whole bunch of people that I went to high school with didn't get held back. And a lot of those kids should have been fucking held back, didn't get held back because I don't know, man. But that happened my whole fucking life. I mean, I can think of Boy Scouts, youth group, school, work, the military, sports teams I've been on. I mean, I've played intramural sports. Um, we won for like a straight decade. Softball, volleyball, you name it. Fucking darts. I'd have had a winning team at that too. because I'm like a psychopath when it comes to show up, be there when you're fucking supposed to and shit. So people like you, but like if you're not on the same team, they hate your guts, you know? And like I feel like my teammates, the people that are my teammates, they're on the same level as I am. I think I'm an asset. But yeah, I think my boss hates my guts. I think my boss hates my guts in every scenario. Oh, fuck, Val. It's kind of what I was not looking forward to. I saw the. So let's talk about this, Val. So I saw this map of the path of Hurricane Aaron. And they've got such a hard right hook. And if you know what I'm talking about, you know that it just doesn't look like it's rolling that way. And I'm not a weatherman. I didn't go to school for this. So when I point shit out, I don't know what I'm talking about. But what I'm saying is, directionally, it looks like the hurricane's going like this, right? And there's some roll to it. And it looks like the roll is going to carry it straight into like the islands and South Florida. And then when it loses power and it starts to hook, it hooks and goes straight up the fucking mainland Florida. Like I'm telling you, that's what in my brain I see based on but everything has it turning out to sea and I don't know what I'm talking about. I'm an idiot. Hmm. I'm stupid. I should have paid more attention. I should have specialized. I refuse to do that. I would rather been useful to everyone than only useful to, in an instant, right? My daughter came home after the book fair in fifth grade and said her teacher was so happy he got the picture books he asked for. I said, picture books? Kara said, her response was, yes, mom, there are kids who can only read picture books in fifth grade. Yep. And you know, comic books used to be between 10 and 30 cents. And they got bought by big organizations. And, over time, what used to be 5 cents, 10 cents, a quarter, 30 cents, those are 4 or 5 bucks. It's hard to it's hard to get your kids into reading when there's a everything costs. You know what I saw lately was we need to start just meeting up at the library. Just meet up at the I think I've been thinking about this. I think I'm gonna start taking those Harvard classes. I dabbled. I did some light recon. I did some reading. Yeah, I would love to get like a BA in political science from Harvard. That would be the shit. Colorado. Yeah. That's why I'm a big fan of comic books, Magic the Gathering, video games, board games, is because it's getting really hot outside. Might need to become an inside dog. Yeah, so just remember Gabby said, my kid's going into the third grade and is reading chapter books. Great. That's great. In fourth grade, I'll never forget this. We had just moved to Indiana, and I went to the Mooresville Public Library, and I was looking for stuff to read, and I think I had read through Choose Your Own Adventure, Babysitter's Club. I'm like a young, voracious reader, right? And the librarian came over, and she was like, "You've got to read this book." And I was like, "What is it?" And I think she gave me, I think I'm wrong. I have to look it up. I think it's The Brethren. That came out in 2000. So I gotta figure out. Yeah, maybe The Client. But yeah, an absolute crazy run, by the way. Um, the best book ever, a lot of people ask. Um, the best book of all time is called The Testament. Just so everybody knows, the John Grisham novel. hmm So I'm spoiler alert like a motherfucker. You want to talk about a great book? So the movie starts out. The movie should have been a film. Movie starts out with the CEO jumping out of a 100-story building to his death. So, for the record, if you want a book to cheer from the beginning, uh, the main character is the executor of the will, a lawyer. And what happens is that you think you're gonna, execute this will, and his immediate family is gonna take ownership of his empire, and that's not who he gave it to. And that's the fucking book. It's incredible. Like, should have been a film. Probably the impetus for Laura Croft, if you really want to talk about it. Hmm. Choosing to read a picture book is great, but only being able to read a picture book in fifth grade is another. Hmm. Absolutely. The joy of reading. When I was a kid, we had the book club from Pizza Hut, and we also had what was the Scholastic Book Review? Do you guys remember that? Where they'd like send you home with an order sheet for books, and you could like order books and they'd mail them to you. I think it was like a once of the year thing, plus the book club through Pizza Hut. Dude, because of free pizza, I can't tell you how many fucking books I read. Yeah, and a lot of kids did not. A lot of fucking kids did not do that shit. Hey, that's awesome. Hell yeah. Hell yeah, Alaska. Hell yeah, Alaska. Look at all those Ukrainian flags. Slava Ukraine, Free Palestine, we don't say it enough. Thomas Massey is leading. Who's a Republican? Yeah, reading's a major priority. Hell yeah. Shout out to the readers. My wife is a reader. She constantly is either reading a book or listening to one. So not only did UCLA reject the anti-trans agenda from this administration, Trump has also been ordered to restore millions in frozen science funding to UCLA. But yeah, if you want, you can download Once Human, and if you have any interest at all in hanging out with your boy, it's a free video game on Steam. It's a MMO, a modern MMO, post-apocalyptic, but it's like horror themed, but not like jump scare horror. Like if you're a reader horror, like there's a R.A. Salvatore. I don't know if anybody's fuck. I don't know if anybody read R.A. Salvatore. But a lot of people have said this is an MMO if Salvatore wrote it. Um, Again, it's beautiful. It's beyond what your imagination could think of. It's been good, and I think it might actually be crisper and better than it was. So, just throwing that out there. But it's definitely like the things that you do in that game outside of the shooty bang bang shit are like build, gather, create, uh, effectively experiment, right? Along with the rest of the game. So, anyway, it's good escapism. Pete Buttigieg backs Buttigieg shifts tones on Israel following backlash over supportive comments. So keep in mind these politicians are manipulatable. This is how fucking broken our political system is. Is that these people have to be told what to think. This is why I firmly believe we need to create the American Socialist Party, the Workers' Party, the Pro Union Party, the Get Everyone Universal Healthcare, Education, Income, and Housing Party. Because it's so simple. So simple. To talk about Israel, for example. Look at this fucking Marine infantry. The dumbest motherfuckers on the planet. They call us crown eaters. Israel is an unfortunate ally. The truth about Israel is that the Israel today is not the Israel from the Bible. The Israel of today was founded in 1948 by David Ben-Gurion, who was then the head of the Jewish Agency. The entire purpose of Israel is to give the United States an ally, a democratic ally in the Middle East. Are they democratic? Fucking no. What are they doing? Committing a fucking genocide. So the harsh reality of the situation is I made a video about this. I can be friends with you until you fuck up just this much and then it's over. Do you understand now? So I was never pro Israel. I was never pro Israel. It never happened in my whole fucking life. I've never met anyone in my fucking life that's pro Israel, except politicians and the Israeli people, which again aren't Israeli. They're like a melting pot of people that are in fucking denial. Do you see how easy that was? I don't think that's hard to talk about Israel. They're an unfortunate ally. They are committing a genocide. And know that I'm not in any way supportive of the Israeli state. No. Do I want military action on them? No. I want them to stop with their military action. hmm But remember, they're doing what they were designed to do. And remember, all that horrible shit that the IDF does to the Palestinians, all that behavior is coming back stateside. And Donald Trump sees what Bibi's doing in Palestine. He wants to do that here. Benny Johnson just talked about firebombing parts of Washington, D.C., saying it's infested. I hope Benny Johnson meets a Luigi hmm for using that sort of language. And they will. These billionaires will continue. These billionaires will continue to meet their end. I don't have to do anything. I don't have to tell anyone anything. I'm nobody, and I'm happy with that. That will happen for them. I'm hoping by 2030 there won't be billionaires. Well, I just think that there's a lot of factors to consider. There's a lot of people that live in high risk areas, right? If you think about the places that are most at risk all over the world, seaside, right? Think about the rising sea level. Think about the polar ice caps melting. Think about the deregulation of the ocean temperature, right? Remember, the billionaires aren't surviving in their bunkers. Just want to. They don't survive in their bunkers. Infested with politicians. Yeah. Yeah. From what I understand, uh, like Christy Nome, for example, instead of renting in the DC area, she's like taking someone else's residence up. It's like the this administration are the worst fucking people. You know, we've talked about how Donald Trump. Let me back up. We've talked about how Mar-a-Lago is like a historic site. Donald Trump basically lives in a fucking hotel. That's what that's how Donald Trump lives. And he don't own it. He don't pay to stay there. He just lives there. And he's got his own regime acting the same way. It's fucking bananas. By the way, Dina, I don't know if you saw it. I'm wearing the Tesla shirt today. Saturdays are anti-Tesla protests. Oh, speaking of Tesla, did we talked about how they built a diner, right? Did y'all see the diner is gonna close? They cut their staff and cut their hours. That shit's gone. Anybody anybody in the chat? Did you guys hear about that? Hey cat. But yeah, the 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 Tesla diner is closing. Do you guys have ads and commercials in the cardio from Kristen? I don't drive around our car. I work from home, and usually when I drive a car, I put music on my iPhone and put headphones in. I know you're not supposed to do that. and then I'll get in the car and hook it up to the car. Bob said, I love that for Elon. Let me explain this to you, Bob. I don't know if we've ever talked about this. I have gotten every single job I've ever gotten on the walk in. Do you understand? Every single job I've ever gotten on the walk in. I'm a shoe in goat when it comes to like hire me based on my resume and interview ability and then be like, holy shit, the dude's for real. That's me. So imagine getting a phone call over your resume by Tesla. And again, this is fucking years ago, like better part of a decade ago. And showing up to an interview, it's a fucking group interview. Handing your fucking resume in, by the way, handing my resume in a folder, and it was in a clear, like, it, oh, juicy. And I was like, and I have extra copies for whoever interviews. Handed the folder in at the little girl to check in. That I even knew her. I knew that person. And they rejected me at the door. Think about it. Think about that. Every other job I've ever gotten, I got that shit on the fucking walk in. But with Tesla, they were like, nah, fam, on the walk in before I even got an interview. Val said you need to do speaking engagements. On what, though? You know what I mean? You got to be invited to do that. I don't know. You know what's been weird? I try to, and again, this is about as bitch as I get. So if anybody wondered, like, how big of a giant bitch is Jared? Here's a bitch. And I mean a bitch is in like a whiner, not a female dog. Just like somebody who's complaining, so people can understand why I keep saying that. I have tried to connect with other, especially like Indiana creators, people that are creating the same kind of content. You'll see me comment on service members' lives. They don't acknowledge me. And again, this is about as bitch as I get. Okay? So I try to comment on their shit. And I always say, like, good morning, Semper Fi, have a great day. They don't even acknowledge that shit, especially as a military creator, period. Good to go. And then I started out, I become friends with Tina. She comes around every now and then. And Tina invited me on her live. And Tina was so blown away that she was hunting for people for me to talk to. And a woman got on there and said some of the dumbest shit I've ever heard in my life. And I was like, oh my God, you can just have it. Well, remember, my degree um, is in social media project management under the graphic design flag. So actually, I imagine they brought me in there. I beat myself up because I'm like I didn't have a portfolio because we were just getting into portfolio building. Yeah, but yeah, I'm also a massive person. Yeah, they probably thought I didn't have a technical enough degree or enough experience. I've often beat myself up, but I mean, look around. You're like, actually, not bad, not bad that we didn't get that gig. Holy shit! Can you imagine having been a former employee of theirs? Like, oh, I mean, you can imagine if I tell you in one breath that when I was 15, I got a 1510 out of 1600 on the SAT, and my mom like didn't want me playing football anymore. Um, and then also I've been homeless, so just so just so everybody understands. Um, and that's what a breakup will do, by the way. Slept in my best friend's driveway, only because he didn't wake up when I called him, not because I like. Starting to think a lot about gathering water and growing a garden. I'm gonna figure out a system. You work there, start wearing that shirt to work. Yeah. So let's check out the weather and get out of here. Pray for calm seas and fair winds, right? Oh, Jesus. All right. So, yeah, see, they've got Hurricane Aaron making a hard right and missing landfall and coming pretty close to the outer islands in North Carolina. Okay. I want you to know I don't see it that way, and I think it takes a more of a flat approach. But I don't know what I'm talking about. So don't worry about me. Worry about the people with the radar. I hope they back out. Damaging winds up to 85 mile an hour. Weather intensity score is increasing. The west is still on fire. There's north water in. There we go. Holy shit! Biggest storm system I've ever seen. All over a tri-state area. Uh, the lower half of Minnesota, the the entire western portion of Wisconsin, in down into Iowa. There's also some storms over in the Great Lakes, the tip of the mitten. But yeah, there's a line of storms on the west coast from like northern California up through northeast Washington at like a 10-degree angle. So that's going west to east. So basically, the northern third of California, all the way up to the Canadian border, is going to get some rain today. Again, you've got all this fire threat on the east coast, praying for some moisture to satiate that. I see flood risk in southern Texas, as we kind of talked about. And yeah, uh, as far as Hurricane Aaron, still showing it going out to sea. So we'll take it. You know, I hope they're right. Hmm. Yeah, Bob, that's how I feel about it. I feel like the way they're making it out to be is like the hurricane goes out to sea. And all I'm saying is I'm dumb and I think Donald Trump has a hand in this. And I think that he doesn't want bad news. And I think it's part of it. I think it's part of it because you're all looking at models. It's a model, and it's like God, that model. Why does it take such a hard right turn? That's wild. Bob says hot as hell in here in Missouri. Yeah, but yeah. Have a great Saturday. I gotta work. By the way, I don't normally talk about what I do, but I talked to yesterday a 100% disabled veteran that had to have an army veteran that had to have a bunch of surgeries, and also their family went out of the country on vacation, and because of this administration they got held up in a foreign country for weeks and blew up their debt. Yeah, like 40 grand. Just to live for a couple few more weeks in a vacation area, and we were able to save them over $130,000 and shave about 20 years off what it would have taken to repay their debt. hmm Oh, and I had a client that I was enrolling yesterday interrupt me in the middle of the enrollment, and he goes, "Hold on, hold on, hold on, hold on. So you want me to stop paying my creditors?" Yes. Stop communicating with my creditors? Yes. Stop using the cards, stop communicating, and stop paying them. And I'm like, yeah. Okay, I was just checking. I was just checking. I'm like, yeah, you're going to stop paying your creditors. Instead, you're going to pay this much lower payment. It's like half of what you were paying a month. Get out of debt in the next few years. Rather than, oh, by the way, this $25,000 in credit card debt is 100 grand and takes over 20 years to repay. So, for those of you kind of wondering what it does and looks like, is holy shit, you could keep doing what you're doing, keep paying your minimum payments, and throw away a fucking rent or mortgage payment a month in interest. Or you could just fucking stop all that bullshit. And I want to continue to point out the very people I'm trying to get you to not pay are the kinds of people that finance this regime. Just throwing that out there. Just throwing that out there. For those of you with your Lowe's and Home Depot cards. Anyway, a little bit of Eat the Rich, shall we? Oh no. I'm gonna get out of here. Yep. I try not to give away too much information because it could be personal, but it's like, yeah, they traveled out of the country, and because of this administration, they had to stay in a vacation area for weeks. And they didn't have any debt before that. hmm Cost them like 40, 50K. Yeah. Yep. Anyway, have a great rest of your day.